we get to this point? Why am I having to tell our neighbors, friends?
There we go. Like we know what we're doing, sorta, kinda. Oh, isn't that nice? YouTube changed my... It's not what I wanted. Okay, maybe we'll just go without. Because they got rid of my thing.
Kennedy. Do you want a man for president who's seasoned through and through, but not so doggone seasoned that he won't try something new? A man who's old enough to know
and young enough to do.
Well, it's up to you, it's up to you. It's strictly up to you. But it's Kennedy, 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 Kennedy for me.
Kennedy, 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 Kennedy.
Do you want a man with spirit who is not afraid to fight?
A man whose record shows that he will fight for what is right.
A loyal man who'll bring the job a fresh new point of view. Well, it's up to you, it's up to you. It's strictly up to you. Cause it's Kennedy, 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 Kennedy for me.
Kennedy, 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 Kennedy.
And do you deny to any man the right he's guaranteed to be elected president, no matter what his creed?
It's promised in the Bill of Rights to which we must be true.
So it's up to you, it's up to you. It's strictly up to you. And it's Kennedy, 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 Kennedy for me.
Kennedy, 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 Kennedy.
Do you like a man who answers straight, a man who's always fair? We'll measure him against the others, and when you compare, you cast your vote for Kennedy, and the change that's overdue. So it's up to you, it's up to you, it's strictly up to you. Kennedy, 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 Kennedy for me. Kennedy, Kennedy, Kennedy,
Welcome from my humble second bedroom here in the Saucon Valley, part of the Lehigh Valley, Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, North American continent, Western Hemisphere, on this planet Earth, the only one. We have third rock from the sun in the Terran solar system, part of the Milky Way galaxy. This is the Kennedy Effect, TKE, tonight for the 12th of September, 2024, just before one of the more infamous dates in our history. My brief quiz challenge sort of thing to you all tonight is, why is the 13th, Friday the 13th, a big date? Why do we consider it as unlucky as some people think they are? There's your little history quiz for tonight. I will put that out there for fun, and we'll see what kind of answers roll in. If you're brand new to the program, welcome. If you've stumbled upon us and found us, I saw a name in the chat earlier that I'm not familiar with. Hello. Welcome. Let us know where you are from. First name, where you're from, where you're listening. If you're inside the states, outside the states, a special hello to all the listeners outside of the United States. Welcome to you all as well. And we are live right now on my Facebook, Jeff Kennedy, on our home group Facebook page for the program, That Other Side of Information, live on YouTube, also called That Other Side of Information, live on Twitch, Jeff R. Kennedy, live on LinkedIn at Jeff Kennedy as well. The audio of the program blasting around the globe via gcpr.live through the Bosscast website, bosscast.com. Search for GCPR, Ghost Claw Productions Radio. You will find us there. Please visit the website. Website link is in the chat. You can learn all about us, all about the hosts, our schedule, the other shows, the hosts, everything about it. Check us out, gcpr.live. We are just about 2.5 months into this, so we depend on you very, very much to listen, learn, share, talk about the program, share, or well, the station, not just the program too, but all of it. We rely on you a great deal. We hope that you're enjoying everything that GCPR has to offer, and that you have become a regular listener to all of the live programming. And remember that everywhere that we share the video simulcast of the program through all the different social medias, usually stays there as a recorded version. Well, as well, you can always find it there. I recommend YouTube. I just think it's the easiest thing to do when you're looking back through older programs. But check us out, gcpr.live. Anyway, TKE tonight for the 12th, the end of our broadcast week. I forgot to silence me phone. End of our broadcast week today. We return to you on Sunday. And then next week, I'm trying to actually line up guest hosts. No one has stepped forward quite yet. Yes, Mike, don't worry, I see you. I'm trying to see if anybody else in the station will take our time slot. If not, we just won't be here. We'll be on the road. We'll be in DC, rubbing elbows with the big power people next week. Traveling Monday, we'll be there Tuesday and Wednesday. Should be doing a show a week from today, and then, of course, the following Sunday. Let's get straight into it. Oh, phone calls, I should say, as well. The old-fashioned way. We still haven't quite... We're not going to solve the phone call thing until I get a brand new computer, and that's not going to be anytime soon. And it's probably going to be till calendar flips. So that's not going to happen anytime soon. But that said, we're here. We're together. Let's have some fun. We will be here with you till 9 p.m. Quick reminder, 11 p.m., Conversations with T. Nathan across all GCPR platforms as well as his own. And, of course, Thomas returns tomorrow morning from 8 a.m. All of it live and all of it on GCPR. Let's get into it. Big stories of the day. Vice President Harris is now on a swing state tour following her drubbing of Trump at the debate on Tuesday. As she should. I mean, I think most pundits will tell you that this election, the numbers crunchers, the folks who really break this down to a fine powder, if you will, the ones who can tell you, where the most medium-sized county in Nebraska voted for the last, they voted for president since the time they were incorporated. The people who really memorize all this stuff. This election is in all likelihood going to be, first off, I don't think this election is going to be terribly close in just the overall popular vote. I expect the vice president to win the popular vote, period. In fact, I expect her to do it by a pretty damn sizable amount of votes. Remember, Hillary Clinton won in 2016 by 6 million, Biden in 2020 by over 8 million. I don't know that Vice President Harris is going to necessarily break either of those totals, but I can tell you if you had 6 to 8 million of anything, it would be a lot. Dollars, feathers, rocks, hot dogs, whatever it might be. If you had 6 to 8 million of pretty much anything, it's a lot. I think she'll win the popular vote and by a very good cushion. But we don't have one national election in this country. We have one of the last relics of slavery in the Electoral College, the disproportionate representation of the southern and smaller states of the old Confederacy. So this election will come down to about 7 states. And remember, it came down to about 110,000 votes in 7 states in 2020. Even though Joe Biden won the overall popular vote by more than 8 million, he won the Electoral College by winning about 110,000 more votes across 7 states. And I happen to live in the largest and most populous of all the battleground states, and in the single most important electoral county in the country, Northampton. So this will still be close. I continue to just kind of think in my gut that this isn't going to be as close as people think. I don't think it will be close at all in the popular vote. I think she wins by 3 to 5 points, percentage points in the overall popular vote. But the electoral vote, that one could still be razor thin. So she's doing exactly what she needs to do. She doesn't need to do a 2-week-long campaign swing through California. She's going to win California and Washington and Oregon and New York and New Jersey and Maryland. And I have a pretty darn good feeling Virginia and Connecticut. We know she's going to win Michigan. The Republicans don't even seem to, Trump doesn't even seem to be really fighting Michigan terribly. And there's if it wasn't for the fact that Brian Kemp and Brad Raffensperger, the Secretary of State of Georgia, have purged 750,000 votes since 2020, I would say she's probably got a very good chance of winning Georgia. But that voter purge means something. Texas, where she wasn't going to win anyway, has purged over 1 million voters. Because, of course, if you can't win, cheat. So she starts a swing state tour, as she should do. I think the rallies will be well attended. There'll be a lot of excitement. But as we've talked about on the program, and as a lot of pundits have talked about, none of it matters. None of it matters if people don't go out and vote. When I talked last night about the endorsement by Taylor Swift, Randall put a very, very, very salient and yet very, very important fact in the chat, which he allowed us to share, of course. Once you put it in there, if I think it's interesting, I'm going to share it. That roughly 340,000 people have registered to vote just since her endorsement. So that's 2 days. Not even, really, because she didn't put that post on Instagram until after the debate was over, so that was around 11 p.m. So we're coming up on just around the 2-day mark. Just a hair shy, 338,000, just a hair shy. 340,000 people have registered to vote since she made her announcement. It's a lot of folks, man. 340,000 of anything, as I mentioned before, is a lot. Feathers, candy bars, dollars, whatever it might be. It's a lot. So that is happening. We talked a lot. I'm just going through some of the big stories on the AP. Phone line is open because I did not get to speak to you last night. Feel free, have at it. 267-227-9189, 267-227-9189. Phone is open. We'll do it the old-fashioned way. From the AP, Dateline Atlanta, article written by Kate Brumbach of the Associated Press. Headline, Judge tosses some counts in Georgia election case against Trump and others. The judge overseeing the Georgia election interference case against Donald Trump and others on Thursday tossed out 3 counts in the indictment, including 2 counts brought against the former president, saying that they lie beyond the state's jurisdiction. Case against Trump and others who are appealing an order following Fulton County District Attorney Fannie Willis continued to prosecute the case is on hold while that appeal is pending, but Fulton County Superior Court Judge Scott McAfee issued orders Thursday based on motions filed by 2 defendants, Sean Still and John Eastman, who are not part of that appeal, meaning the case against them is not paused. In the Georgia case, one of 4 criminal prosecutions against Mr. Trump, a grand jury in August 2023 returned a 41-count indictment against Trump and 18 others, accusing them of participating in a wide-ranging conspiracy to illegally try to overturn Trump's narrow loss in the 2020 presidential election in the state of Georgia. 4 people pleaded guilty last year after reaching deals with prosecutors. It's a tired old story. There are many, many, many levels of justice in this country. Too many. Framers did not intend for there to be this many different layers of justice of the judiciary in this country. I've said it before, I will maintain it, and maybe I'll use even a more salient, timely example or analogy. I've said before that if Trump was a 16-year-old black kid with an 1/8 of an ounce of pot in his pocket, he'd have been signed, sealed, and delivered to jail for 30 years by now. Probably within a few weeks. I would say the same that if he was a Nicaraguan refugee fleeing a death squad in Nicaragua because the man had the audacity to try to exercise his right to vote, he too would have been signed, sealed, delivered, tried, and expatriated back to Nicaragua, probably facing his death by now. But then again, Trump is 78 and a half years old. He's white and he's a billionaire. So that's okay. Him, we can wait. The wheels of justice turn slow. Sometimes they go in reverse. Please keep in mind. Trump is taking about 40 cents off the dollar of every dollar donated to his campaign, his PAC, and the Republican National Committee, just to pay lawyers. In this campaign cycle alone, he's diverted $125 million to pay for his various legal defenses. He's already only raising about 40% of what the Harris campaign has raised. Then he's taking 40 cents off of that every single dollar. We have asked on this program, we've continued to talk about this phenomenon and to try to talk to and yet somehow about our family, friends, coworkers, and neighbors who are blinded by this cult. And I hate whataboutism. I don't think whataboutism is an argument for or against anything. When you bring up something and the only thing that someone else can say to you is, oh yeah, well what about this? I don't care what about that. It's not what we're talking about. But one kind of area where whataboutism is actually very cogent are areas like this. What if Joe Biden had tried to overturn a federal election? What if it was he who was on the phone with Brad Raffensperger in Georgia and it had been recorded? What if he had driven a mob, had whipped them up into a frenzy of insurrection and violence, and set them loose on the Capitol Police to sack the Capitol and kill as many legislators as they could get their hands on? Can you imagine what Republicans would be doing right now? We'd be wearing armbands. And yeah, think about it. You should be able to get the reference. Can you imagine all of these trials being postponed and delayed, and hundreds of different motions and appeals? Can you imagine a Supreme Court granting Joe Biden immunity? Because remember what Justice Brown Jackson said, that the majority's ruling in the immunity case, if you really, really read it carefully, is not a blanket immunity for all past presidents, and future for that matter. It's really about Trump. And I'm pretty darn sure that I asked you again this question last night. when we are attempting to have those discussions, and I hope that you continue to try to have them with friends and family, coworkers, et cetera, in the grocery line, whatever, at the coffee shop, whatever it might be. Is this as good as we are? Is this it? Is this really it? Is this as good as we are? Because I'll tell you something. After that debate in June, after the Trump-Biden debate in June, Democrats asked ourselves that very question. Is this the best we can do? And the answer ended up being no, it's not. And it's an answer that President Biden himself answered in his own heart, gut, and mind, and stepped out of the race. Because we looked ourselves in the mirror and said, is this the best that we can do as a party? Is this the best candidate that we can put up for the sake of the country? And the answer was no. Now, we can have probably endless discussions about whether it needed to get to that point, whether we needed to wait for the debate to happen until we came to that conclusion. And there are valid discussions. They're very valid discussions to have. But at the end of the day, we looked in the mirror as a party and said, this is not the best we can do. It's not the best we can do for ourselves. It's not the best we can do for President Biden. It's not the best we can do for the country. So we made a change. When does the other side look in the mirror? When do they look in the mirror and say, wow, is this really the best we can do? Also, switching gears, also from the AP, Dateline Warsaw, Poland. Article is written by Matthew Lee, and this is the Associated Press. I highly, highly recommend the Associated Press app. It's very, very simple to use, and it remains currently free. And the articles are perfectly easy to read. They're well written. It covers national, international, science, environment, entertainment, some sport, different regions of the globe. It's a very good app, and I think you should check it out. Headline: Blinken wraps up Ukraine-focused Europe trip in Poland with arms requests on the table. U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken wrapped up a three-nation, Ukraine-focused European tour in Poland on Thursday after hearing repeated appeals from Ukrainian officials to use Western-supplied weaponry for long-range strikes inside Russia. Blinken traveled to Warsaw after spending a day in Kyiv with British Foreign Secretary David Lammy, during which they pledged to bring the Ukrainian requests to their leaders. U.S. President Joe Biden and British Prime Minister Keir Starmer are to meet in the United States on Friday, amid signs both Washington and London are growing more receptive to allowing the Ukrainians to use their arms to hit targets farther inside Russia than previously okayed. We've talked about this before on the program as well, but if you're new to the program, if you missed that chat, whatever it might be, President Zelensky of Ukraine has, from very early on in this war, especially when the front lines seem to stabilize, when the Ukrainians stopped having to give up ground, when Western supplies of weaponry began to really kick into gear, he then went back to NATO, to the US, to the UK, France, Germany, and said, well, I need to be able to hit inside Russia. They need to feel some pain. They need to know they're in a war. His belief being that if the Russian people are subject to a war climate, that they will push for an end to that war. Now, it has not happened quite yet, but I do believe that his strategy, if you will, is beginning to work. Ukrainian troops have made a serious, they've yet to call it an invasion. They don't even call it an incursion. But then again, Russia didn't call it that into Ukraine either. And I don't think the two are analogous, by the way. But they've seized a pretty large section. I believe it's over 400 square miles of Russian territory. And they continue to expand that footprint. Earlier in the week, the Ukrainians launched a drone strike on Moscow. The Russian people kind of deserve to know they're in a war. According to the best polling data that the West can get its hands on, a majority of the Russian people continue to back Putin in this war. And remember, Putin has told his own populace that they are fighting this war to rid Ukraine of Nazis, because God knows there are entire nations of those still around. But that's what he's told them. At the same time, also telling them that this is not a war. It's just a special little military action, that he's actually defending Russia from war waged on it by Ukraine. Hey, maybe Zelensky figures, well, he's blaming us for a war anyway, we might as well give him one. He's lied to the people about emptying the prisons. This war has almost cost Putin his position. Remember when the head of his mercenary army got within a few hundred miles of Moscow and toppling the government? Prigozhin. It came to me. Well, maybe the Nariva is actually working. It came to me. Prigozhin led his troops. He put them on the road toward Moscow to take the capital. That kind of civilian uprising, although Prigozhin's army is obviously a professionally paid mercenary army, but Zelensky is counting on the fact that civilian pressure, groping for a word here, can you see me searching for a word? Civilian pressure will grow if the war is brought inside Russia. And by the way, if you're Russia, first off, Putin thought he was going to take Ukraine literally within about 3 weeks. We're now 2.5 years into this with no end in sight. And Russia should feel it. They should have to feel it. The United States has been very, very lucky in the wars that we have been a part of, really since the Civil War. No major ground war has been fought on the North American continent since the late 1800s. The Spanish-American War. And even then, was fought largely along the Texas-Mexico border. But during World War I, we were never attacked. We didn't lose an inch of ground. World War II, the Japanese actually did occupy a few of the Alaskan Aleutian Islands. The ones, if you can picture Alaska, the exceptionally long line, archipelago of islands that comes off the tip of it like a tail. The Japanese actually did occupy a few of those islands. And of course we were bombed in Pearl Harbor, but there was never a large major ground offensive. We were never invaded. And of course, we haven't been since. And I think some of that, not necessarily to be analogous to the United States, but Zelensky thinks they shouldn't. If they want a war, we should give it to them. And remember, they share a border. It's easy for them to invade each other. I happen to support that point of view. And I hope that he'll be allowed to fight this war the way he wishes. There was something else. Oh, this is not actually a story that I'm terrible. Well, let me do this. 8:33 Eastern Time. We're already halfway through the program. Oh my goodness. We are halfway through the program, and George has not shut up since we started. 8:33 Eastern. That's a wry smile, isn't it? That's a very dry and wry smile. This is TKE Tonight, the Kennedy Effect Tonight for the 12th of September, 2024. Thursday, the 12th of September. Tomorrow is Friday the 13th. No one yet in the chat has told me the significance of Friday the 13th. Somebody's got to have a guess before we go. And don't Google it. Try and think. Do it the old-fashioned way. Use your brains. You're all smart people. What's the significance of Friday the 13th? I will Google it and give you the answer before. No, I'm kidding. I have to know the answer, but I mean, I'll give you the answer before the end of the program. If you're new to the program, let us know where you're watching. We would love to say hello to you. Let me see if I can get quickly into the Facebook and see if I can say hello to anybody, any names that I do not recognize. We have shared the program to just under 70 different places. Gentlemen, I guess I don't know if it's gentlemen or not. Cowell Angel was listening earlier. I hope you're still here. Welcome, welcome, welcome. I don't recognize your name. I'd love to know where you're listening from. That would be great. Don't see a lot of new names tonight. That's kind of stinky. But okay, it happens. Remember, this is the end of our broadcast week. We return to you on Sunday evening. That's the plan, barring anything unforeseen. My hope for you next Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday are to have guest hosts here on the program. Kristen and I will be in Washington, D.C. doing what we do. And I expect, we will see you a week from tonight on Thursday night as well. Remember, 11 p.m. on GCPR and all GCPR social media, radio outlets. Conversations with T. Nathan from 11 p.m. And tomorrow morning, your broadcast day starts with Thomas Bishop, my partner, Thomas the Villain, with The Sound of Coffee tomorrow morning. Let me get back to the kind of big stories of the day. This is also, shocker, from the AP. I don't think that the ultra-rich are... I'm very mixed about the ultra-rich. I do think they should be taxed significantly higher than they are now. I would love to see the Reagan-era tax cuts completely rolled back and go back to a New Deal era of taxation. If an Elon Musk or a Jeff Bezos or a Zuckerberg or the Kochs or the Mercers or a Jeffrey Yass or Peter Thiel or any of these right-wing zealot billionaires, after they're taxed at 91% above $4 million, after their capital gains are returned back to a 35% rate where they should be, after corporate taxes are returned back to a 50% rate where they should be, and where they were for an extremely long amount of time in this country, if they still have billions left over and they want to waste it by shooting themselves into space, then God bless them. But when they literally have so much money that it can't even properly be calculated and they have nothing else to do with it other than shoot themselves into space, then I have a problem with that. I do believe that the private industry can push innovation. And I think there are certain places within space exploration where private industry has done exactly that. SpaceX's reusable booster rocket is a genuine leap forward. The new monster rocket, which is not what it's called, I don't remember the name of it. I think it's Falcon. George is going to know. The really super large, heavy payload rocket, the one that Musk thinks is going to get people to Mars, which I think is the Falcon 3. I think might have that right. It's the largest rocket ever built. Most thrust, can hold the most fuel, etc., etc. It is meant to get Falcon 8? 9? Crikey. Well, I had a multiple of it. 3. It was there. It was sort of there. The rocket itself is meant to get people to Mars. Because its sheer size, it's supposed to create more thrust, move people faster, and so on. But and these are occasions where private industry has pushed exploration further. But generally speaking, I think space exploration should be left to NASA. I think NASA should just be fully funded and leave it to NASA. Because when you don't, you get bullshit like this. Republicans like to whinge and whine about homeless veterans struggling for food. Really? Well, then why don't you go bitch at the doorstep of these folks? Dateline Cape Canaveral. In an article for the Associated Press written by Marcia Dunn. Tech billionaire pulls off first private spacewalk high above Earth. A tech billionaire popped out from a SpaceX capsule hundreds of miles above the Earth and performed the first private spacewalk Thursday, today, a high-risk endeavor once reserved for professional astronauts. Tech entrepreneur Jared Isaacman teamed up with SpaceX to test the company's brand new spacesuits on his chartered flight. The daring feat also saw SpaceX engineer Sarah Gillis going out once Isaacman was safely back inside. Spacewalk was simple and quick. My brain's going too fast for my face. I'm not reading correctly. The spacewalk was simple and quick. The hatch was open barely half an hour, compared with the drawn-out affairs conducted by NASA. Astronauts at the International Space Station often need to move across the sprawling complex for repairs, always traveling in pairs and lugging gear. Station spacewalks can last 7 to 8 hours. This one clocked in at less than 2 hours. Isaacman emerged first, joining a small elite group of spacewalkers who until now had included only professional astronauts from a dozen countries. I'm trying to scan through here to see what he paid for this. But they don't seem to have included it, which is terribly convenient, he said sarcastically. Isaacman is 41 years old, CEO and founder of the Shift4 credit card processing company. Has declined to disclose, I'm not reading well tonight, disclose how much he invested in the flight. You know why? Because even somebody as terribly egotistical as that, and self-centered, self-important, must have a bit of a shred of embarrassment. And here's something I can't necessarily support either. Quote, today's success represents a giant leap forward for the commercial space industry, NASA administrator Bill Nelson said via Twitter. Well, yeah, I guess. But for what purpose? It's a billionaire's playground. And to be honest with you, it should disgust you to a point. If they had carried experiments into space, if they had tried some new type of docking maneuver, or I don't know, hell, for that matter, tested phasers and photon torpedoes, maybe we'd have learned something. But a billionaire stepped outside the capsule. Okay. Color me unimpressed. And color me pretty disgusted by the entire adventure. I just find it, I don't know. I just find it, I find it pretty repulsive. It's billionaires spending money. Look, I thought it was very cool that Jeff Bezos took William Shatner into space. I think that was pretty freaking cool. But at the end of the day, why does he do this stuff? Because he has billions and billions and billions of dollars to throw away. And he can throw away tens of billions and still have hundreds of billions left over. The top 1% in this country holds as much wealth as the bottom 90%. The three richest people in the country hold the same wealth as the bottom 60%. It's sick and it's twisted. Now, Mike mentions testing the next-gen spacesuit is a big deal. Perhaps. I can concede that point. We also could have done it in a much more tasteful way, other than handing it to a billionaire to take a joyride in space. He happened to be wearing the suit. He paid for a space flight. It's all right. I can, you know, I can understand your point. I can concede that point even. They weren't a next generation spacesuit. They're a whole new spacesuit. They're thinner. They're easier to move in. They're actually better looking, to be honest, on a very visceral level. But I just felt better when NASA controlled all these things. But then again, I've been critical of NASA as well. The George W. Bush administration killed the space shuttle program with nothing to replace it. We're having enough trouble just getting back to the moon, something that we did 60 years ago. So, I don't know. Just my opinion. Nobody ever has to agree with it. This is another, I think, probably the biggest story of the day, and it will probably be the one that we end up on. We've got about 10, 12 minutes left in the program. Phone line's open if you want to have a go at it. 267-227-9189, 267-227-9189, 267-227-9189. It is right over my left shoulder. That's a very funny sentence. It's right over my left shoulder. 267-227, what did I say? Yes. 267, let me try that again. 267-227-9189. This, I think, is really the biggest story of the day, as the fallout aftermath, repercussions, if you will, from the debate continue to ripple. You throw a pebble in a pond, it makes ripples. Throw a boulder in. Those ripples last much longer, and they are much larger. This is an article for the Associated Press written by Meg Kennard. Headline: Trump rules out another debate against Harris as her campaign announces $47 million haul in just hours after the debate ended. I don't do a lot of this, folks, because I ain't that smart. I told you there would only be one debate. And here you go. That no matter what, Trump would make sure there was only one. Because if he won, he wasn't going to risk losing a second. If he lost, he wasn't going to risk losing a second. Very interesting today that Trump has talked about how the debate was rigged against him, at the same time blasting out all over his Fakakta social media site that he won the debate. How does one win a debate that's rigged against you? The biggest admission of defeat by Trump was his going into the spin room to defend himself. And if you've seen any video of him in the spin room, I would guess, and to be fair, I'm speculating, I would guess that part of the reason that he did that is just so the Secret Service and cops could corral the media away from him. If you've seen any pictures of him in the spin room, they formed a human chain, made a circle around him, and kept the media about, I don't know, they were at least probably 10 feet away from him, so that he could stand in the middle and hold court. So that the would-be king could hold court. Except the emperor has no clothes. How do you win a debate that was rigged? Those two things don't go together. Donald Trump is the oldest person ever to run for the presidency. And probably next to FDR, the least healthy and the least functional. And no, that's not an FDR joke. Anyway, Dateline. Oh, there's no Dateline for this. That's weird. I'm wondering where she's based. Probably, I would assume wherever she's based from, New York or Washington. There's no actual location Dateline here. Again, this is from the Associated Press, written by Meg Kennard. There he goes. I knew it was coming. What do you got, arthritis in your fingers that took you that long to dial? I'm kidding. Go ahead, you're on the air.
Hey, Jeff, it's Randall.
I know.
No,
to be honest, I don't know. I shouldn't say that. All I get on the screen is Google Voice. It could be anybody on the planet. I just assume it's you, because you and Mike and then occasionally Gary are the only consistent callers. You're the only ones that don't seem to be afraid to do it. So, and you've been kind enough in the past to tell people it's not that hard. It's just a phone call. But different topic for a different day. So that said, sir, what may I? Well, we got about 9 minutes. So go ahead. Let us know what's on your mind.
All right, let's go back to the debate on Tuesday night.
Sure.
Between Trump and Vice President Harris. Kamala Harris actually totally won that debate. And her facial expressions when she's looking at this liar next to her, and he hardly looks at her at all, and has this scowl on his face most of the time when she's talking that looks just like his mugshot when he was arrested in Georgia for interfering under Georgia state law with the 2020 election. And when she prodded him, and got under his skin on, so many things, like his crowd size and people walking out after listening an hour to his gibberish or whatever. And the memes today, they were incredible. They just came in from all my Facebook friends all day. Came in from all these Facebook groups I'm a member of, and there were some hilarious ones today on his comments on eating cats and dogs. I should say dogs and cats and other things. It was just hilarious that he made these asinine statements as if they were really fact about Springfield, Ohio, and about the Haitian legal immigrants to our country. Because we know Haiti, man, is just a shithole of violence from the gangs. Just like, Nicaragua is, Venezuela is, again, list on that, but that's not what is really relevant. It was just hilarious that he brought up this absolute BS. I saw it on TV. No, you didn't see it on TV. And no, all the officials in Springfield, Ohio, including the chief of police now, not just the city controller last night, came out and said, there's no evidence of this. This is just buku. Fuck. Like, it, and yet the cult, the Trump MAGA Republican Party cult, just keep believing these lies after lies after lies, just like his lie that he won the debate Tuesday night when he lost it, flat out lost it against Vice President Harris. It's just in my mind, I just can't believe how these cult members can actually believe, and even worse, in the MAGA Republican Party, elected officials can keep supporting this dunce, this 78-year-old fool that's running on the Republican ticket to be elected president November 5th. And so people out there, if you're a U.S. citizen, and especially like Jeff is, especially like George is, especially like I am, living in Pennsylvania, living in one of the 7 swing states, you've got to get out and vote November 5th. We've got to put this Trump MAGA Republican Party back in the gutter. Go ahead.
Well, you are right in that. Oh, George, we should have checked. Are they on after us? Is Superplex on after us? I forgot to check with Thomas. Just in case I run over, I don't want to run into them. But you're right in that I almost don't want to say conventional wisdom, because it seems like conventional wisdom is thrown out the window, but I don't have a better word to use for it, so I'll say conventional wisdom, is that not only does Trump need to be defeated in this election, he needs to be defeated soundly. And he needs to be defeated as drastically and dramatically and by as wide a margin as possible. We need a 1984, Reagan Mondale sort of finish here to bury him. Sadly, I don't think that's going to happen. I've talked to you on the program before about the difference between a cult and a movement. Trumpism is a cult. It will fade when he passes. Others will try to pick up the banner, but it will never quite be the same. What makes this different is the quiet part of this continues to be sought after and implemented. Project 2025 is not brand new. It is a lot of the same old playbook wrapped up in a new cover. But so much of Project 2025 got its start during the Nixon administration. And then, of course, during Reagan. And then, oh shit, we have to wrap up because there's a show on after us. And then really got on steroids during the W. Bush administration. You can draw a straight line from Joe McCarthy to Nixon to Reagan to Bush to Bush to Trump. It's a straight line. So when Randall says that Trump needs to be defeated, he absolutely does. And he needs to be defeated as soundly as humanly possible. It needs to be a dramatic, dramatic loss to try to kill this cult. But even then, it won't go away. And even then, there was much talk on Morning Joe this morning about the potential for violence on November 5th and 6th and 7th and carrying forward. And I do think that's still a distinct possibility. We need to wrap up, my friend. Superplex is coming on right after us. I will talk to you on Sunday.
All right, bro. Have a good one, Jeff. Give hi to Kristen. And love you both. God bless.
Stay healthy. We'll talk to you Sunday. I got to wrap it up. That's all we can do for tonight. That went very, very quick. On GCPR, coming up immediately. Well, I'll skip that part. For everybody at GCPR, for everybody that surrounds the Kennedy Effect, Lynn and George Dare, April Riddick, Kristen and Daisy the dog, I'm Jeff Kennedy. We've done about all the damage we can do for tonight. We will return for our 3-hour program Sunday, the 15th. Nobody told me what the significance of the 13th of Friday the 13th is. Shame on you. Do your homework. We'll get back to it on Sunday. For all of you on GCPR, stay right there. Superplex party starts right now.